In today's video, I'm going to be going over the best cameras for churches in 2022. However, I'm only going to be recommending cameras that most churches can afford and all that you'll ever need. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I watch videos like this one, I just get discouraged and everything that is suggested is just way too far out of reach and doesn't help whatsoever. So I hope that this video is valuable to you and your budget, so let's dive right in. Hey, it's Harley here. To start, let's go over some camera basics in case this is your first time ever learning about cameras. Now, if you already know about settings and stuff like that, feel free to skip ahead as I have time codes listed in the description below. So to get started, there's a few different types of cameras. Now, the first being the one you already have, which is your phone. And then we have camcorders, and then there are point and shoot cameras, and I like to put GoPros in that same category as their all-in-one units as well. And then there's DSLR and mirrorless cameras, and then after that you have full-frame DSLR and mirrorless cameras. And finally, you have professional grade cinema and studio cameras. Now, I want to go over some important terms that I will be mentioning throughout this video to help you better understand what I'm talking about. So the first one is focal length. What is focal length? Focal length is how wide of an angle your view will be. Now here you can see this is a little bit tighter of an angle of view as it's zoomed in on my head more. Now this angle here, this one has a little bit more of my background. You can see the microphone, you can see my computer and all of that. So that is a brief explanation of focal length. Now another example would be this picture I'm putting up right now. Now the top left is 18 millimeters, which you can see the barn, you can see everything surrounding it. That is a very wide focal length. So the smaller the number, the wider of an angle the view. Now at the bottom right, you can see the 300 millimeter, which that is only going to show you the barn and just a little bit around the barn, just like this angle here does. Now the next important term is aperture or f-stop. Now the f-stop controls how much light is let into your camera's lens. So not only does aperture control your exposure, it also controls how blurry of a background you have or your depth of field. For most of you, you're going to be in a darker room for your gathering, so you're going to want your f-stop as low as it can go. For the purpose of this video, these will get you started on the camera basics I will be talking about. Now, if you would like a camera basics video in the future, let me know down in the comments below. Now, let's get started on the camera recommendations. So the first one being your phone. Now, these have come a really long way on what these cameras are capable of. So much so that if you go back in my video library here, I shot one of the videos completely on my iPhone 13 Pro Max. So let me know down in the description below if you can guess which video that was. These cameras have some great benefits, but they also have some drawbacks. The first being, it is your phone, so you are going to have to settle for leaving your phone in one place. You can't monitor your live stream with your phone or anything like that. The other thing is, if you were to be gone one Sunday, you would have to use somebody else's phone and the settings might not all be the same. So it just kind of makes it complicated. However, if you're first starting out, that's just fine. Just do it. The next con is that the phone has the smallest sensor of all the cameras we're going to be talking about today. And for those that don't know, the sensor is what the light hits when it gets inside your camera. So the smaller the sensor, the less light it's going to hit it. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, it means that you're going to most likely have to be in a brighter location to use the camera. However, don't knock that off your list yet, because the new iPhones actually use something called computational photography. What is that, you might ask? Well, computational photography is a collection of software processing for imagery improvements, like marrying multiple frames together into one HDR shot to span a better range of bright and dark elements in a scene. This is important because it allows you to artificially brighten your image without sacrificing on the quality. A couple good things, though, is the phone is an all-in-one unit, so you don't have to buy extra lenses or anything like that. And then the battery life is actually pretty great considering it is a very small device. And finally, it is something you already have, so you don't have to go out and buy anything else. You already own it. So just use it. Now, the next type of camera I mentioned was an action cam, like a GoPro. Now, these could be a great option depending on your goals. I don't have any experience with these cameras live streaming. However, I do have one mounted as a overflow cam that constantly sends a live feed into our lobby. Now, these newer GoPros have some really cool features that I didn't realize. Now, you can actually live stream straight from the GoPro with no wires hooked up to it. How does that work? Well, you have to have a GoPro subscription, and then you go into your phone's app and set everything up in there, and then you can start and stop your live stream remotely from your phone. That's pretty cool. Now, this is a smaller camera, so what does that mean? Well, it's got bad battery life. And the bummer is you can't have it charging and recording at the same time or streaming. It has to be one or the other. So you will need to be diligent with when you turn it on. These new GoPros are getting higher and higher resolution, which is just crazy considering how small they are. Now, the new GoPro Hero 10 goes all the way up to 5.3K. Now, you can't stream with that. You can only stream in 1080. However, you can get some really cool B-roll with that and put it in your church promo videos or something like that. The biggest downside to GoPros is they have a fisheye effect usually. Now, a lot of them you can turn that off and you have some different aspect ratios and stuff like that you can play around with, but just keep that in mind. You will have to do some playing around with it as it is a all-in-one unit and there is no zoom to it. So, like I said, depending on your goals, this could be a great option for you. The next type of camera I mentioned is a point and shoot camera. Now, these two have come a very long way as the older ones just were not usable. They were horrible. Now, these new ones are crazy what they can accomplish with this. If you've never owned a dedicated camera before, I can highly recommend this as it is very simple to use. You don't have to know anything about lenses. It's all in one package. Everything is just right there. Now, the one I recommend is the Sony ZV-1. This is a newer camera in their lineup, and it features a lens with a 24 to 70 millimeter zoom and an f-stop of 1.8 to 2.8. As you zoom in, the f-stop will go up, so there's no way around that. Just keep that in mind. This camera does have the live streaming feature built directly into it. All you have to do is plug a USB cable into the camera and then directly into your computer. There's no other hardware needed. And then you just go into your menu and click the live streaming option, and it will pick it up as a regular camera in whatever streaming software you're using. Like it would show up as like a webcam. So much like the rest of the cameras I've already mentioned, this does have a smaller body, which also means it is a smaller battery. Now, however, with this camera, it has a cool option of getting a continuous power supply. So you would never have to worry about the battery dying on you. It constantly has power from a wall outlet. The last feature I love about this camera is it is 4K capable. So you can do your live streaming in 1080 and then do all of your video recording in 4K for any promotional video or something like that you're going to be shooting. So all in all, this is a great all-in-one package that is very affordable, and I highly recommend. After point-and-shoot cameras, the next type of camera would be a DSLR or mirrorless camera with an aps-c sensor. Now, these cameras look very similar on the outside. However, the biggest difference is on the inside on how the light is processed and how you view it through the viewfinder. I have a couple different recommendations for these type of cameras, as they will both be aps-c sensor cameras and have a 1.5 times crop factor. Now, they will also be interchangeable lens cameras, which means you will have to buy a separate lens for them. Let's start with the DSLR. I recommend the Canon SL3. I have quite a bit of experience with these, and I use 3 of these every single Sunday to live stream our gathering. Some noteworthy specs are it can record up to 4K 24p. It has great dual pixel autofocus, has a bigger battery than the rest of the cameras I've already mentioned, so it will last longer, and it uses Canon's EF lenses. Now, the EF lenses are also a little bit older of a lineup, which also means you can get them cheaper used, which is a win-win. One of my favorite lenses for this camera is the Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8. So even though it is a zoom lens, the f-stop constantly stays at f1.8, or you can adjust it higher if need be. This is a great lens as it hits the sweet spot on different focal lengths. You have a wider 18mm focal length, and then you can get a tight shot at 35mm, which is very natural to the eye, as it is what your eye's natural focal length is. Now let's get into the mirrorless option of this camera. The mirrorless option I recommend is the Sony ZV-E10. Now this is a newer camera in Sony's lineup, so it is going to be hard to get right now. However, they are fantastic aps-c sensor cameras. Now, even though they are aps-c sensors, what I love about Sony is all of their cameras use their E-mount. So even though these are a crop sensor lens, you can use their full frame lenses on them. So even if you were to upgrade in the future, your lenses could still all work on the future cameras, which is incredible to me. Much like the other cameras I've already mentioned, it is 4K capable, has the live streaming straight out of the camera into your computer, and has a whole great lineup of lenses. Now, this is a small camera, so just like the other ones, the battery life isn't the greatest. However, you still can get a continuous power supply for it and never have to worry about it dying. Something I really like about the Sonys is they have a lot of tally lights, and then they also have a red border around the flip out screen when you're recording. This doesn't really matter much for live streaming, but hopefully you're using these cameras for more than just live streaming. Now, anything after that, you're going to be jumping up in price and difficulty. So keep that in mind. And like I said, the purpose of this video is just for budget friendly options. However, I will give you a couple examples here just so you know. The next type of camera is a full frame DSLR or mirrorless camera, like a Canon EOS R or the new Sony a7 IV. And then after that, you're going to get into your professional grade studio and cinema cameras, like the Blackmagic Design studio camera or a Sony FX6 or FX3, something like that. Like I said, if you're watching this video, those are most likely not for you. There's all kinds of videos on YouTube showing how a professional with a cheap camera can do just as good, if not better, with a beginner using a very high-end cinema camera. I know that was a lot, so if you're still here, thank you. If I had to start from scratch right now, I would probably go with the ZV-1 from Sony, and then if I needed something different or a different focal length, I would definitely add the ZV-E10 to my arsenal, as you don't want to mix and match your brands because the color science isn't always the same throughout the brand. I hope you got value out of this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.